Hi, Emily. Welcome.
Hello, welcome, or thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you again. I know we connect before to record a podcast, and
Yeah,
today I want to invite you over mostly to help our audience from all over the world, right, to understand more like how nutrition connects to health, connect to our sexual health, since I think it's a very
absolutely.
important topic.
Yeah, oh, very important. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, so whoever are watching, please feel free to ask any questions. Okay. I see more people joining. So we're going to talk about nutrition and sexual health. So please feel free to ask questions. Okay, so Emily, one myth I often get from people is to eat some seafood, like oysters, right?
Yeah.
Can people believe that can boost our sexual desire? Is that
Yes.
true? Is there anything we should be aware of?
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely certain foods that they, kind of promote that will boost your libido, so to say, and all of that good stuff. But I think, a lot of that gets a lot of hype. But a lot of it is just, it comes down to the way I kind of talk to my clients about health and sexual performance and just sexual health. A lot of people get embarrassed to talk about it, but it's part of, being a healthy human being. And when we don't eat these nutritious foods, and oysters fall into that category, yeah, when we carry around excess weight, or we don't have the good cardiovascular health, that affects not only blood flow but your endurance, your confidence, which is a big thing. So yeah, definitely, food plays a huge role in all of that, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, so for food, I know sometimes if we eat too much, right, like obesity, and that
Yeah. Oh yeah.
actually can impact our sexual function as well.
Hmm. Hmm. Like, there's kind of a little quote that I like to kind of, I think it's so cute, and it kind of stuck with me, but it's a healthy heart equals a healthy sex drive, right? And so it's been shown that even just carrying about 30 pounds of excess weight will inhibit your drive, and not only that, but contributes to erectile dysfunction. A lot of people, again, a lot of the males that I work with, they get kind of embarrassed talking about this, but blood flow is important no matter what like, whether it's to your heart or other organs, and that includes your, genitalia. Your So it's, if things aren't, if you're carrying around that excess weight, you're not taking yourself physically through the foods that you eat, how you move, how you sleep, it's 100% going to affect you in the bedroom as well. Hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think our audience, right, to pay attention that
Oh yeah.
for food, it's not just what kind of food you eat at the selection, it's
Oh
also
yeah.
the amount of food you eat.
Yep. Yep. And one thing about the oysters, why they get so much hype, is specifically because of the zinc that's found in them. So that's kind of why that, zinc. And I know a lot of people think oysters, but like me, I can't stand to eat an oyster. It's the texture, the consistency. So a lot of people, that you can also get zinc in beef and pork, and foods like baked beans or pumpkin seeds. And there's so many foods nowadays that are fortified. Cereal is a common one that would be fortified with zinc. So you don't have to go out and just eat all oysters all the time, because it's kind of that, common stereotypical aphrodisiac type of a food. You can get zinc in other ways as well, which, because I don't know, like, I would not be feeling very sexy if I was eating oysters. I'd be feeling sick personally. But yeah, yep. So that's kind of the hype with the oysters that you hear.
Yeah, that's a good point actually, because a lot of time we just hear online, right? So-called experts, they just talk about, oh, eat this, that, it can help you. But we normally don't know exactly what is helping us.
Yeah.
And it does not worth it for you to force yourself to eat
No.
something you don't really enjoy. And if
Yep.
you hate seafood, you cannot stand oysters taste,
Yep.
or afterwards, after eating it, you feel like you smell like fish,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Then if you don't feel sexy yourself, how that's gonna help you with your bedroom fun?
And it's the same thing that I talk about with any kind of nutrition changes we talk about, or any kind of movement. It's like, if you don't enjoy what you're eating or how you're moving, it's not a sexy phenomenon, and that's why it's hard to sell people, is consistency. Like, if you can't consistently eat oysters or have them in your diet on a regular basis, what's the point, right? Like, it's not like you eat them once and you're like got all the zinc that you need, right? So it's like, I always look at the bigger picture. Do you enjoy the food that you're eating? What are the benefits of them? And if you don't like it, what other ways can we get in the nutrients so that you're getting the benefits while also eating the foods that you enjoy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's also one thing I've been studying and reading that is interesting between food and sex is the smell. So when I study, right, not only the food, it's includes the smell of your semens, your what release from your body. So there are some other than our own body odor. So what you eat somehow impacts what comes out from your body. And for oral sex, for example, I think the taste really matters. Is that true?
Oh yeah. Yes. And that's not something that I'm an expert on in that regard. If anybody has questions about that, I'm always honest about what I know. I could definitely do some research on that. I don't know. I shouldn't even say this, but why do I think like, have you heard anything about pineapple? Am I making that up?
Yes. I heard men eating pineapple would make their semen taste better.
Yes, I feel like that is one that I've heard. I do not know any science to back that up, however. So like I said, if that is something you guys would like me to dive into and maybe get back to, I'd be more than happy to do that. But that is one food that I have heard. I'm sure there's more. But yeah, for sure. Well, because you want to make it as pleasurable for your partner, whether you're female or male. You want it to be enjoyable. And if there's anything that you can do in that regard, and even if your partner's, that's maybe not their favorite thing to do, it helps. Absolutely. It helps. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so for the pineapple one, I don't know the science either, but I know one thing from porn production. I think he's a director for the porn movie in Japan. I interviewed him before.
Okay.
So he mentioned they would ask the actors, the male actors, to start eating some pineapple or eating healthier several days before shooting the movie. If they have certain scenes involves oral sex.
Yes, it makes absolute sense. What comes in has to come out, and hey, absolutely. I think that's fascinating, and I think it's definitely worth looking into more for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do know one research. When I did some research videos on one of my YouTube channels. So the research is what kind of taste or what kind of smell from a person can make you more attractive, right? So it's about this body odor, and that also relates to what you eat. So if you wear a shirt and then you take it off, ask another person to smell it, what they find out is if the men eat very healthy. I think healthy means more like vegetable, right? Less carb, more protein.
I was going to say lean proteins, fruits and vegetables along those lines is what I've been. Yep.
Right. So a lot of women, when they smell the shirts, they do rate this kind of guy who eat healthier as more attractive. So I know that research is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating. And it kind of goes back to like our kind of caveman years, really. We haven't evolved that much since then, and just the pheromones we give off and different times of the women's cycle. I think it's fascinating, but it's absolute, and it's just true. And I think, why not use it to your advantage if you can?
Yeah. So when you coach people, do you meet anyone who has some kind of sexual dysfunction?
Yeah. And it's not, like I said, most people, when they want to work together. They want to lose fat, right? And then for vanity reasons or for other health reasons, they don't just come out and say, hey, I have erectile dysfunction, or I'm having trouble in the bedroom, or my partner is, or I have a sex drive. And females too, it's that happy medium of being, overweight, it will affect it, and so will being underweight. It's hormonal, right? And so if whether we're underweight or overweight, it's going to affect that. And so it usually comes up in discussions just later on about overall health. And people, like I said, it's not a subject that a lot of people feel comfortable just like shouting out from the rooftops, and they don't realize that, hey, with proper lifestyle, with looking at your nutrition and your movement. I don't even like to say exercise, because a lot of people get I got to work out all the time. It's like, no, you just need to move your body for, they say 150 minutes per week, and walking, like just go for a walk. People get so worked up, but it's like, they don't understand that even losing just 10 pounds of their body fat will drastically increase, again, not only their health parameters, but when you feel better, confidence, it's gonna reflect in the bedroom. Not only that, you need stamina, you need strength, you need endurance, even positions, right? If you're an obese individual or overweight individual, simply doing these common things that should just be natural for us are not anymore. And when you don't feel sexy, then maybe the last thing you're going to want to do is get naked in front of, or just having the endurance to do, because it's a physical act. I mean, there's so much more that goes into it than just, people think. And then on the other side too, like if somebody is too lean, they're lacking those sex hormones. Now they can't produce what they need to do to have a healthy sex life, the lubrications, even just the drive to have intercourse, and then that affects your intimacy with your partner, and it can be this whole thing. So we have to live in this, for lack of a better word, a kind of balance. Everybody hears everybody's got to live in this balance, but it's true. It kind of have to find this happy point where we can live a lifestyle that we enjoy. It's not about, you don't need to spend hours in a gym every day. You don't need to live off of, broccoli and chicken breast, but how do you still enjoy the foods, enjoy movement while still, living your life, but also maintaining your health, which is always, always, always going to show up in the bedroom. Always.
I really like what you mentioned. There are several points you mentioned I think is important, right? I want to emphasize. First, if you want to have a better sex life, you don't have to force yourself to do a lot of exercise. No. Start from baby steps, like move around if you're not someone exercise a lot, right? Mm-hmm. And second thing you mentioned I really like is about confidence. It's not just the skill, the function, right? It's how you think about yourself and how you think your partner think about you.
Yes. It's big time. And I know if you can see me on video, I know you've already had we've already chatted, and you know that I walk on a walking pad. When I'm doing business calls, when I'm seeing clients, like I just walk at like 2.5, 3 miles an hour. I just simply get steps in throughout my day. That's a big part of my so-called exercise. It's not excruciating. I'm not sweating after. It gets my heart pumping a little bit, and it can be just as easy as that. It was just, I got this thing off of Amazon. And again, I want to get the point across to people that it's doable. And you don't need to alter your lifestyle a lot to make these changes, whether it be, the movement piece, the exercise, even sleeping, right? Sleeping and stress management, those all play a role too. But again, it comes back to making the changes that aren't so drastic that you can't stick with them. And just always ask yourself, are these things that I can stick with for the rest of my life? And then if so, then okay, then those are the ones we need to focus on and build from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I also like that to think long term. It's not just a 1 week plan, 1 day thing, right? It's longer term. What can you really sustain to become part of your lifestyle? I think that eventually is what can save you in your bedroom.
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Before we continue, I just want to call out to all the listeners, whoever are watching and listening. If you have any questions for Emily, please feel free to leave in the comment area. We are talking about nutrition and sex life today, and hopefully can inspire, our conversation can inspire someone to really rethink about your relationship with food and your relationship with sex.
Yeah. And another thing too, that a lot of people, testosterone, they often hear too, simply carrying excess weight, it lowers testosterone. And so it's just, obesity and being overweight is just kind of one of those things that affects not only your heart disease, your blood pressure, your chances of cancer, stroke, diabetes, all of that. Like when we talk hormones, it's, those sex hormones. And so a lot of men, it's interesting when you hear, people just don't think about this. And I don't know why it's not, talked about more, but you tell somebody like, oh, this is going to lower your sex drive, your testosterone is going to drop. It's like, that might be the nail in the, to kind of get them to prevent them from going down roads, or even help them course correct when, they hear the consequences, because nobody doesn't want to have a good sex life, So,
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like people focus too much on their sex life, and then they become going to the other extreme, right? Like sex becomes performance. I want to do whatever I can to control it. Just tell me what I can eat, what I can do exactly. So the next day, my sex life just magically improved.
Yeah. That's a side that I don't see often. So yeah, that's very true.
Yeah. So if someone, first I like, because I know you're experts in helping people losing weight. That's part of what you do. You possibly see a lot of clients like that, right? So, and I know for weight gain, and I say it to you real, even in my clinic, in my office, I hear stories that someone over the years, right, they stop moving around, not even exercise, just moving around. They stop doing that. Also, pandemic is not helping, and they gain weight, start having sexual dysfunction, possibly due to stress and other things, right? But they start exercising like you, like at home, walking or do something, and they start losing weight. Immediately, they want, when they feel good, they want to retry the sex part. So I definitely see that in real life.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, we live in a society where it's wonderful. We have advances. We live in a time where there's exciting things happening, but it's also this technology where we wouldn't have to get up out of our recliners if we didn't want to. You could change the channel with the remote. You can have, DoorDash bring food right to your door. We don't move. Like, we have cars, obviously, and it's just our society. Like I said, it's very exciting, and we're very blessed to live in the world that we do. But when it comes to health, like me with this walking pad, my job is not construction. I'm not on my feet all day. Like, I have a desk job consulting all day, in which a lot of people have desk jobs. We go from sitting at work to coming home and sitting at night. Just this lack of movement. Like you said, it does not need to be go do an hour of HIIT cardio in the gym every day. Like, that sounds exciting to nobody, including myself, right? And people won't even try to do that. But it's like, you hear the cliche of park farther away, take the elevator instead of the stairs, get up from your desk and do some movement around your office. When you're on the phone talking to somebody, stand up and walk around instead of sitting in your desk. If you're doing Zoom calls, which that's our world today, if you don't have to be on camera, walk around while you're on your Zoom calls. Like, just fitting in little pockets of movement throughout your day will add up drastically. Again, when you do it every day, over the course, again, it's the little things that we do every single day that add up big time. I'd rather people get in movement every day in little ways versus doing an hour of cardio one day a week and then sitting on their butts the other days and the other hours and saying, well, I did an hour of exercise. It's actually been proven and shown that the people who go to the gym for an hour and then say, oh, I got my workout in, and then they spend the rest of their day sitting, versus somebody who doesn't go to a gym but just lives that healthier lifestyle. They wake up, they go to work, they take a walk on their lunch break, they come home, they walk their dog, they're taking the stairs, they're doing all of those things. When you look at both individuals, the person who just moves more throughout their day is if not the same, better off than the person who goes to the gym and then is sedentary, because in their head they think, I got my workout in, I'm good. It's a very interesting thing. But again, when we talk about all of the things that movement can do for you, from everything to controlling body weight, to increasing confidence, to building stamina, endurance, all of that, again, it is going to be reflected in your sex drive, in the bedroom, 100%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, moving around also help with sleep, and sleep again interfere with sex, since I'm more like a sleep expert, right?
Yeah,
so
they all connect to each other.
They all connected.
Yes.
Yeah. But I like what you said. It's very similar to how you handle anxiety. When you feel stressed with a bunch of things, right? Try to break it down to smaller segments. So for moving around, first, moving around is not necessarily exercise. But second, right, you can move around many different times. You can, I know someone, they watch TV at night, they try not to be a couch potato. So they are like stretching, watching movies.
Yes, I often tell my people, like, you can get little pedals to put under your desk to pedal while you're working. You can, I mean, there's so many things, like me doing this. I know a lot of my clients have gotten these walking pads and they'll put them in front of their TV, or they'll bring them to their office and put them there. But it doesn't need to be overcomplicated. And when you give people prescriptions, as far as, and I'm not, when I say prescription, I mean, I like saying go for a walk, right? But if you were to say you need to work out for an hour every single day, you tell the person who's not doing much at all to go do that. It's so daunting that they don't even start, So it's like, hey, why don't we just start with 10 minutes a day? Or let's, every time you eat a meal, like we call this habit stacking a new habit around a habit that you already do. So let's say you eat 3 meals in a day. Okay, you already do that. So with every time you eat a meal, go for a 10-minute walk after or before. Kind of pair, so you remember to do it. It's doable, it's sustainable, and then when you conquer that, then we can go on to the next one. If we, it's just a smart way to do it. And then again, that builds confidence. They feel good. It becomes part of what they do, and then it snowballs in the direction of creating those healthier habits. But it all has to be attainable, something that they feel like they can do. It's almost like making your goals setting them so low that they're hard to not achieve. Because what happens is, I hate when people rely on motivation, because I'm like, motivation lasts a hot second and then it's gone. We have to be determined to do the thing even when we necessarily don't want to. But how motivation happens is when you do the thing, even when you don't want to. But guess what? By doing that thing consistently, that gets results. And then getting the results is what motivates you to keep going. So it's kind of like that. You got to do it, and then that creates that motivation when we start going, hey, I'm lasting longer in the bedroom. Hey, I'm not having these erectile dysfunction. My blood flow is better. Hey, like this, okay, like this is good. I'm feeling more sexy in my skin. Okay, this is worth it. I'm going to keep doing that walk. You start to see the rewards, and then that drives more. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like the habit stacking strategy. Yeah. Start from something easier to do.
Yeah. Yep. And then just make it so easy that it's almost too hard to fail at. A 5-minute walk 3 times a day, and then you go from there. Yeah.
Yeah. So if we want to, so that's about habits, moving around. That's very important for our sexual, desire, performance, function. And then how about eating habit, or anything what we put in our body, right? Is there certain suggestions you have for our audience that, for example, what to eat to start your day, or what to consider throughout the day for this like little baby steps they can stack upon each other?
I don't like to give certain food recommendations, again, for the simple fact that I like people to eat what they want, but I do give the whole more fruits and vegetables, lean proteins. And when I say vegetables, we want berries, we want, melons, we want, apples, oranges, just nutrient dense foods that are going to give you a lot of vitamins and minerals and just wonderful things that our bodies need. And again, those are lower calorie, high volume foods as well, which again are going to help keep your weight more stable. It's hard to gain weight eating those types of foods versus eating, your donuts and your cookies, things like that. I don't want to demonize sugar, but getting too much sugar, like, don't ever want to fear monger. Sugar is not the enemy. You're not gonna, it's not gonna harm you. The poison with anything is in the dose. So how I like my people, that most of your food, 80-85%, you want those lean proteins, the chicken, the lean beefs, the seafood, and getting the fatty food such as that salmon, the tuna, the herring, things like those fattier fish, as well as the leaner white fishes. Those healthy fats, like, this, your hormones are, you need, your hormones run off of your fats. You need healthy fats in your diet. Fats are essential in order to, one of the roles of fat is to maintain proper hormonal function. So if you don't have those healthy fats in your diet, not just from the seafood such as salmon, but you can also get them from like avocados and nuts and things like that. And so most of your diet should be those fruits and the vegetables, the lean proteins, and then those fattier sources of fish and nuts and things like that. But you also need to learn, I don't want people to think that they can never go have a donut or ice cream or a cookie. That's not my point, because you want to enjoy that as well. But that should be that 15-20% of your lifestyle, and enjoyed in moderation. And when you look at the big picture of how somebody eats, we want to make sure that the majority is those nutritious foods, not just for sexual health, but health in general. But again, in order to prevent, a negative relationship with food, because what happens, I see this all the time, is people say, I can't eat that, that's bad. And then if they do eat it, they tend to feel bad. They tend to, I already blew it. They'll go eat 10 more donuts, or they feel so bad. And it's like, no, that's not the point. When you just say, hey, have a donut every once in a while, or have some cookies, after you've already, the majority of your food is those nutritious food sources. And like I said, those are going to directly affect your sex life as well. So yeah. And that, let's be true too, is like a sex life. A lot of that is dating, like, going out for ice cream every once in a while. Like, that's doing things like that with your partner. Again, being intimate with somebody outside of the bedroom, doing things. And that's another thing. If you have a partner who's struggling with their weight and like their low sex drive, or have these health issues around, their sex drive that can be affected by their lifestyle, be a partner with them. Go for a walk with them. Look up new recipes. Cook with them. When you go out to eat, share a dish and be your own. But doing it, and because we never want to bash somebody or say like, oh, or make them feel bad, because they already know. So when you can bond partner outside of the bedroom doing these types of things, guess what? When you're in the bedroom, not only are they going to hopefully reap the benefits of a healthier body because of it, but now that bond you guys are forming outside of, again, it's emotional, that is going to go into the bedroom as well. So going for walks after dinner, like I said, just anything that you can do to support and to build that relationship outside of the bedroom too. So yeah, it all is tied together, and that's what I think is really neat.
Mm-hmm. I like your approach, not just to recommend a specific food, but also you don't just forbidden people. There's so many rules, right? You have to do this, you cannot do that. I feel like it's similarly to like when we intervene other issues, like when we in sleep issues and anxiety and other things. A lot of people come in, they're so anxious. They're like, oh, I read online, they said, oh, you cannot do this, you cannot do that. It creates a second layer of anxiety. It makes things even harder.
Yeah. And so I always tell my clients, I'm like, don't ever come to me and say, Emily, can I eat this? And, usually that's going to be your ice creams, your cakes, your donuts, your pizzas, things like that. And I'm always going to say yes. But I always follow that up with, how much are you eating? And what does the rest of your day look like? Now, if you had a donut and then Pop-Tarts and then McDonald's for lunch, and then you wanted to go have your pizza and I might say, you know what? Maybe not the best choice to have, that fast food for dinner tonight. But if they're like, you know what, I woke up and I had my Greek yogurt with my berries for lunch. I had a nice big salad with some salmon. Snack, I was snacking on some nuts. And for dinner, we had a nice steak with a potato. And then, hey, and then for dessert, we're gonna go out for ice cream. Heck yeah, there you go. That's how you do it, right? And so it's not what, it's how much, and what does the rest of your day look like? Yep.
Right. You have to think about the whole day and the bigger picture.
Yes.
And we do have comments from one of our audience on YouTube, I believe. Hi. Yeah. So thanks for the message, Toby. So the question is, we actually covered at the very, very beginning about seafood, oyster, right? The question is, any kind of the seafood can improve sex intercourse, like oyster.
Yeah. Yeah. So it just, one of the things too is, you always hear oyster, but I'm going to actually do, I wrote some, and I want to just kind of bring it up on my computer here. But again, you're going to see a lot of the fattier fish be mentioned here. Not only, and it's not just fat, it's those good, those heart healthy fats. So oysters, I'm curious if this person is like me and just can't stand to eat an oyster and wants to know, like, oh, what else can we eat? Yeah, I'm just pulling up here. What are some? We got herring. I know we got mackerel. I know sardines. Gosh, what are the fattier fishes?
Yeah.
Tuna. What's that?
Yeah, I think it also depends on, as a person, what you really
what you like.
in your body.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. If you already eat a lot of different seafood, or like you said, it's really the zinc in the oyster, in the seafood, related to our sexual function. It's not just the oyster itself. So
and even
it depends on.
Like beef would be another, just making sure that, I'm a big, if you can buy the organic meats or whatever, or the, just making sure that you buy the best quality beef that you can get, or even those fortified cereals. Absolutely. Those would be my favorite ways. I like salmon. It's still not my favorite fish, but those are, you always have to ask yourself, do I like it? That's always got to be number one, because can you see yourself eat it for the long term? For sure. Yep.
Yeah. And also personally, I really love oyster. Every time I travel somewhere, I would always try to order, if it's a seafood city, right? If it's near the ocean, I always want to try the local raw oyster. But I don't think it's that magical. It's not like something, eat a lot of oyster, you're gonna immediately feel like, oh, I have to do something.
Yeah, you don't leave your dinner going like, oh my God, I'm ready. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think it's really just follow your own recipe, right? What you normally eat, what you think can help, can be helpful. I really don't think, after talking to you, Emily, today for this topic from the very beginning, some of the audience may come in late. Now I really think it's not just about the food itself. It's not that magically. It possibly, I think there's possibly some placebo effects in the picture.
Oh, absolutely.
But I'm sure the component in the food itself, like zinc, could help a little bit, right?
It's always going to be, what is that food providing you nutritionally? And so that's why you hear specific foods that may be high in that thing. But if you keep it simple, I always come from the mindset of, let's not overcomplicate this. And that's where the 80-20 comes in of, eat mostly nutritious foods and make sure you get a balance of your lean proteins. You need those healthy fats in your diet, the fruits and the vegetables, and you really can't go wrong. And then those are the foods too, by default, are going to help you maintain that healthy weight, which is, I think, the bigger issue to a healthier sex drive. Not only for confidence and performance and stamina and all of the things that, you know, come along with it, but it's erectile dysfunction, it's blood flow, it's you know, maintaining a healthy body so that you can perform not only how you want to, but also into your later years, still enjoying it, you know. I think that's super important. So yeah, always looking at the bigger picture, like why oysters? What's in an oyster that it people talk about it, and once you break, oh, zinc. Okay, what else has zinc, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things about the relationship between food and sex. Possibly it's very different than what we thought originally. We may think it's a linear relationship. Oh, I eat this, then my sexual function gonna be like what? But in reality, it may not be the case.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So anyone, please feel free to ask questions. And you know, while Emily's here, we are talking about the relationship between food and habit, right? Daily habit and your sexual function. So your sex well-being, basically, in general. So please feel free to ask any questions. And yeah, Emily has her Instagram right here on the screen for those who are watching us. And let me spell it out for people from TikTok. So Emily's IG is Emily Spicer Coaching. And I believe your other platforms are similarly, right? And your website.
I do have a TikTok, which is Emily Spicer Coaching as well.
Right.
I don't do much sex talk on there. It's mostly nutrition, but yeah, I'm very open. People that do have questions, they'll DM me on Instagram or comment on one of my TikTok videos. So I love communicating that way as well if somebody would rather do that.
Yeah, so please feel free to follow Emily and check out her videos, her lectures. I know you are very active too. Do a lot of great things. You also have your website also at emilyspicercoaching.com, I believe.
Yes. Yeah. And you know, like my big thing too is the changes that you do make should be sustainable. And that's a lot of what I help my people do is I look at each person individually and look at their lifestyle, the foods they like to eat, the movements they like to do, their sleeping habits, things like that. And we do some fine tweaking so that, again, they can live with it forever and it improves every other part of their life.
So I also want to ask you, do coaching, do couples come to you sometime? For me, since I therapy, right? The couples sometimes they have sexual desire discrepancy. Of course, for me, I may approach them from different angle. But I'm curious for you, they may come to you for different reasons, but everything's related. So I'm curious, what do you do and what?
Yeah, a lot. I absolutely adore working with couples because not only do they, you know, sleep together, but they cook together, they live together. And it's when we have one partner working on something and the other partner knows, it makes it so much, you know, easier, and they're supportive. And yeah, and what I find too is that I can kind of be that third party, right? So like somebody to kind of talk to kind of be the buffer, or like, hey, what's going on, or what's going, you know, is there issues there that we can talk about that, you know. And what's really kind of funny, again, with people kind of, you know, maybe not wanting to share that right away, especially with somebody they think is just going to help them lose fat. But it's a little bit of a side effect too that I'll hear about after they've lost the weight, going like, hey, you know what else we've noticed is, you know, improved sex life as well because of all the things we've discussed. And that's my favorite, is you learn to just take care of ourselves, how every other part of our life can improve too. So yeah, couples, I love working with them, and it's just really neat to see the bond grow, and to see them support each other, and to just see them just grow as a couple, and in all areas, and the bedroom being one of them. I love that. It's really special.
Right. You mentioned they cook together, right? And the lifestyles interfere with each other. And I know sometimes one partner encourage the other partner to do certain things or avoid doing certain things in order to improve their sex life.
Yeah. Oh, it's like, I work with children too, and it's like, don't tell your kid to eat their broccoli while you're over there eating Cheetos. Like, what? That doesn't work, right? So it's like, yeah, when you do it together, it makes it just a more fun and enjoyable process for everybody.
Yeah. We have another great question coming in. Yeah. So should we avoid eating too much before sex? Great question.
I think, you kind of can approach this like exercise, right? Like sex is movement. And if I always say, eat till you're satisfied, not stuffed. Nobody feels sexy when they have a ton of food in their belly, right? So yeah, like if you approach it from like, I always say like an hour before, if you can time it like that, or if you don't have that much time, just simply not eating too much, like too heavy of food. Absolutely. Because not only from a performance standpoint, I know a lot of people with side aches, things like that. But again, how sexy do you feel with a big full belly, right? So, yep, I think it's a little bit of a personal preference. I think you need to listen to your body, but I do think it's a smart play to kind of, give yourself an hour and a half before you plan on having sex to let your body kind of come off of that meal or whatever the snack that you're eating. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And getting a balance of nutrients in too, like get your lean proteins and get some healthy fats, all of those things. It'll affect it for sure.
Yeah, I like that. And I actually know, since I treat mental disorders, I treat a lot of anxiety for different reasons, right? Not just for sex. But some people, if you're super anxious, you may have this irritable bowel movement syndrome.
Yes.
And think about that. You're anxious, and sexual performance anxiety is a common type of anxiety, impact a lot of people to make you suddenly cannot function. And if you're anxious and you eat something right before, maybe it's not even big amount, maybe just a small snack. But if you have this kind of syndrome and you have this problem, then you have to approach it even more carefully.
And I see that a lot with the males too, is it's like they when they're in their own head, they can't perform because they're too anxious. What's going to happen? I don't feel like, oh, this makes me nervous. The anxiety that comes with that. Yeah. And then the other partner can think it's that. It can be a whole thing. So yeah, if that is something that you struggle with, again, that's where it becomes really individualized. But yeah, I think you can't go wrong with waiting an hour or a little bit more before. Yep.
Yeah. But maybe not wait until the whole day if you have a horrible busy day, right? You just starve yourself, and then you go home, you're just overwhelmed. Then your partner said, let's have sex.
Yeah. See, like if you're going on a dinner, say it's date night and you go out to eat, don't eat a super heavy meal before you come home if you know it's going to happen sooner than that. So you got to kind of know your body and play it by ear a little bit too. Yeah. I have a joke. I had a couple, they were like, if his wife ate some big meal, he knew that he wasn't going to go home and get lucky that night based off how big of a meal she ate. So there was that. Yeah.
Right. Wow. Yeah. So the amount of food, what type of food you eat may relate to sexual anxiety, especially for women's sexual anxiety. Women's sexual anxiety can be very tricky and sensitive. It's not just about the man, the partner, the environment. It's about a lot of different things.
Yeah. And we laugh about it, but they're true. They're real things. They're real situations. Yeah.
Yeah, great questions, everyone. Feel free to ask more questions. When we have Emily here for the last maybe several minutes, take your chance to ask whatever question you want.
I think this is really great.
Yeah, and when we talk about food before sex, right, or food around sex, that also remind me of the smell thing we mentioned. I know some people, their sexual arousal or the stop of their sexual arousal, sexual break, basically, is related to the smell. at the moment they smell from the other person. And I think a food smell is part of that. If you just had a big meal or certain type of food, it may be a turn off for your partner.
One of the things, I think two of the foods that come to my mind as like a turn off would be garlic. I know that can sometimes come through, and also like asparagus. Just, you know, I don't know, even just when you eat asparagus, how sometimes you go to the bathroom, you know, it smells if you have so much of it. Garlic and asparagus can be some pudding foods as well. Yeah, and sometimes even alcohol too, I've heard is also could be a factor too.
Yeah, and I think for some Chinese population, cilantro is one thing. Often some people like it, some people don't like it, especially chives too.
Yeah. I've not heard of cilantro. That's interesting.
It does have a strong smell and lingering. And if you eat dumpling sometimes have strong, like a lot of chives in it or certain things in it. After that, right, it may linger. So, and sometimes the smell is not just you clean yourself, you brush your teeth, it's going to go away. And people's sexual desire can be so sensitive to certain things. If it starts to turn off the other person, it does not mean you definitely have no sex that day, but it's going to take a lot of other efforts to slowly rebuild it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, this is great. I enjoyed the conversation, Emily. And
I adore our talks.
Yeah, just want to announce Emily's information again for who are watching and listening, right? You can find Emily on Instagram, TikTok at Emily Spicer Coaching. And her website is the same name, just .com. So
pretty easy.
Great. So I know you don't recommend any food. At the end, any last wisdom for anyone who are curious about the relationship between food, lifestyle, and sexual well-being? Anything people can start trying, or is there any action item you would recommend?
I think it'd be a fun experiment for people to actually write down what they eat in a day and to just look at it and examine it. Am I getting enough fruits and vegetables in? Am I getting 3 to 5 servings? Am I getting lean proteins in? Am I getting fatty fish, oysters, salmon once a week? And how is if they're stuck on that oyster thing? Like, am I getting fortified cereals or even lean beef? But do a hard look at yourself, because this is where it becomes so individual. Is and maybe find one thing that you can improve, and maybe start with one meal. For breakfast, I'm going to add eggs to my diet, because again, the protein, the healthy fats, all of that. Think of like find an area that you're willing to try work on with your nutrition, that is going to help with your sex drive. Again, focusing on those lean proteins, the beefs, the chickens, the porks, the seafoods, and then the produce, the vegetables, the fruits. Are you getting enough of those in your diet, right? And I like to come from the mindset of what can you add instead of, if it seems, I got to take all these things. It's like, no, what can you add? Can you add a fruit to breakfast? Can you add a salad to lunch? Because by default, when we add some of those nutritious foods in, you're going to probably cut down on some of those less nutritious foods. But once you kind of conquer one thing, where can we add another behavior? Can we try a new food that maybe is going to, improve our sex drive? And if you see that more than, if you see that most of your diet are those processed, sugary, foods, well, how can we cut those back to be a little bit less and increase those, more nutritious, sex promoting foods? And again, I just say, do an experiment. Write down what you eat. Do a hard look at yourself, and then find an area that you want to tackle, and then go from there.
Great. Yeah, I dropped down some key points and put it in the chat. So for whoever watching or listening, right, this is a good practice for you to go back, write down and review. You need, I think for anything, for life change or mental health change, we need data, not just learn from everywhere. Oh, I should do this, I should do that, right? Get your own personal data. And even I think by writing down the review, you can maybe find out the connection between certain food style and your sex life, right? Yeah. It's not something from us. If you want to know whether oyster going to help you, seafood help you, do this food diary and food plus sex diary, right? To see whether that can give you any information, then you know which direction to go. I like that idea.
That's the thing with nutrition and like everybody's body is their body. Everybody's unique. You're your own special person. And maybe somebody has an allergy to oysters. You're not going to go eat oysters if you're going to have a reaction to them. It's just so giving generic advice like that. I don't want to do that. So it's like, be your own experiment, look at yourself. And then, like I said, if you want to a more personalized approach, whether it's me or you, find a professional, a health professional that can help you do a deep dive if you need that bigger assistance.
Yeah, always. You can learn all this knowledge from different places, but try to find the legit, evidence-based professionals, right? The resources, the knowledge should come from someone reasonable and with well-trained in the area, no matter which area. And then when you reach a limit to self-help, then there are always professional resources around you. For sex therapy, I know there's board certification, find board certified professionals, right? For coaching like you, and you can find people who are really know the area well, who are certified, who have been working this area for a long time, who has a good reputation. I think this is very important.
Because again, it's not a sexy answer, but it depends, and that's where one person, you can't, it's very an individualized approach for all of this. So
so at the end, thank you, Emily. I think this is a good summary for nutrition, lifestyle, moving around, sex, sleep, all those. They are all individualized procedure, right? There's no one fit for all answer. So we all need to gather our own data, understand our own body signals. And for sex, we have partner. We need to understand our partner's signals, and then really work from there.
And be their biggest cheerleader too if they need your help.
Thank you very much, Emily, for spending the time with me, with our audience across different platforms. It's so glad to have you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I always enjoy our time together. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So for whoever watching and listening, I had a podcast episode with Emily several weeks ago in Deep Into Sleep podcast. We talk nutrition, exercise, and sleep, right? And today we more focus on sexual well-being. So for today's episode, later we will edit smaller clips with Chinese subtitle. We may slowly put them out. And stay tuned. It will be out to some of our social media platforms. So glad to have Emily Spicer Coaching, and TikTok the same. And her website is emilyspicercoaching.com. So if you think you can use Emily's service, please feel free to reach out to her. Thank you, Emily. And see you later and collaborate again.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
Bye.